Hi, this is James C2, and for those who don't know me, I am a top NLP trainer, executive recruiter, hypnotist, and best-selling author, and also a top sales trainer because the skill sets that I teach are going into all of these. And since we've started this, I've actually been, posting interviews with some really incredible people who have a lot to contribute to the idea and the process of transformation, moving your skill sets into different areas, and really kind of evolving how you're doing things. And we continue to do this, but at the same time, other people have been asking me questions around the current job situation and what's going on with that. It's a little bit up in the air, obviously, not just in the US, but globally. And so one of the things I'm doing on these short videos is putting out some tips and tools and things that could be useful for people. And definitely, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Happy to answer them and look forward to moving, into some other areas as well. In this one, we've actually had some questions around the age gap and the generation gap in the employment world. And I know there's a lot of people as they get older are finding, opportunities might be a little bit limited. And as younger people come into the workplace, there's the perception that companies always prefer the younger person. Part of that is true to a certain extent, primarily because of the compensation issue. And basically, what we want to do is really show you a little bit about how to move forward in this. So, one of the things is the older people or the older professionals have a lot of experience, and it's important to understand when you're going into an interview. The environments have changed a little bit from the way they used to be. They're not nearly as formal. A lot of times they're much more social, much more interactive, not one side asking all the questions, then the other side, getting to ask theirs at the end. It's much more of a dialogue. And so I think it's really important to be able to move forward into a much more communicative, dialogue based interview. And, and some people, if you have 20 to 30 years in a field, you know, it might seem like, oh, well, I'm almost teaching people, but that is not the way to handle it. Most of the things that's very important to understand is that it is a dialogue, and it all starts with your own mindset. So the first thing to do is acknowledge in your own mind that this gap does exist. It always will. There's no sense in, say, for example, me trying to act like a 20-year-old. I'm not. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of ways that I've already worked out on how to handle things. But nobody wants to hear just, oh, I'm going to come in and tell you how to do things. They want to understand how you're going to interact with them, and are you willing to learn from them as well as teach them. It's very much more an interactive, modality. And so the thing to do is first acknowledge in your own mind that this gap exists. It always has, and it always will. And that doesn't mean people from different generations can't work together, because obviously they do. The important thing is to understand that just because you have a lot of experience doesn't mean that you're going to be the person who is calling the shots. And you don't have to be. It's important to understand that, both generations have preconceptions about each other. The younger people think that older people are, either not up on the latest technology or topics, or, not able to learn these things. And older people think that younger people believe they know everything. Well, younger people, they know a lot. and they may not know everything. They may still be working things out, and you can contribute to what they're doing if you know how to communicate properly. So, since you can't control other people's thinking, you can influence it by communicating properly. And first, you have to open yourself up to learning and asking questions and showing that you're willing to engage in the dialogue as opposed to just trying to tell people what to do. A lot of younger people resent older people telling them how to do things. You get the stereotypical eye roll. And it's more about how you say things than what you say. So rather than just saying, this is how we used to do it, or I've done this before, you might rephrase it as, well, how would you handle this? Because I've done it a certain way, but your way might be better. And this will allow the other person to realize your value as a resource, and you're open to learning new ways of doing things. Now, this also will show that you're willing to be a good teammate. And really, you know, that is key, because when you're open to learning from other people, letting them take the lead sometimes, you can guide them in the direction that, maybe would be better, maybe would be more cost savings, maybe more efficient, maybe something that they are still trying to work out without you swooping in and just telling them what to do. And that'll create a much better dynamic to your relationship. Now, one of the other things to bridge this age gap is to keep up with current trends in technology. And it's just like in any profession, you have to keep up. So, some licensed jobs like CPAs and nurses have mandatory education, the continuing education credits and things like that. And if yours doesn't, you still have to keep up, because, it's up to you to stay current in what's going on in your profession. That's not to say that every new trend is good. And if you have a preferred way of doing things that's successful, I'm not saying throw it out. I'm saying it's important to know what other people are throwing out. And then you have a decision to make, and you have options. You just have to be prepared to explain that the way that you are doing things will get the results that they want, and you're justified in doing things those way. Now, most new methodologies are built around speed and efficiency. Google searches being a great example. That said, there are times when targeted searches, on a search engine or in an application tracking system or something like that, are too targeted. So, as an example, if I'm doing a search for a VP finance and only looking for someone currently in that role, I might miss someone who's a senior director at a much larger firm, and he just carries the title of senior director but has broader experience than a person who might be a VP in a smaller company. It's also sometimes more efficient to just do things and, like, say, for example, calling information as opposed to doing a search for a certain phone number that may not take you to where you want to go. So it all starts with how you communicate and what you communicate. When you're older, be confident in what you know and be open about what you don't, and show that you're willing to learn, especially new things, and that you're not only willing to do so, but you're actively doing it. And show enthusiasm for what you do and how you can be a resource for that person and the team if you're interviewing. Make sure, I think, to listen first before offering an opinion. And I do mean offering an opinion and being willing to ask questions and especially when you don't understand something. Really, it's always embarrassing for someone to feel like they don't know what something means and they try to cover it up. But remember, every company and every generation has its own kind of abbreviations and language. And so it's important to be able to keep up with that. And if you don't know something, be open to ask. Because if you ask the right questions, you'll get better answers. People will show you actually have an interest and that you're willing to learn. Now, I think when you don't understand something, because um, it's actually better for you because you create a little bit of a rapport situation when somebody can explain to you something. Even if you may have an idea, then you can start saying, is it like this? And then they'll get that you understand what they're saying. And when you don't understand something, that's okay. So just remember, most problems are problems because they've never been solved. People have different ways of doing things, but they've never been solved, with one solution. And so your insights, because once you understand the problem, even if it's put differently, could very much be the answer to theirs. And so your solutions, I think, will be very valuable in that way. Now, lastly, look at this as an opportunity to contribute to what everybody else is trying to do. Uh, Younger people generally have a lot more energy and are more expressive in their reactions. And by making your suggestions, as opposed to telling people what to do, and doing good work, you're leading by example. And your attitude will ultimately affect theirs positively or negatively, depending on what you put out. So, if you have any questions, please be sure to put them in the comments below. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And for more resources, please go to jc2consulting.com, link in the description. And there is a free book available, NLP for the World, featuring 31 of the top NLP trainers in the world, covering a variety of topics. And you can also find a link to my best-selling book, The 5 Keys to Hypnotic Selling. And I have a client whose business grew by $1 million from a training I did and from the techniques in this book. So definitely look forward to hearing from you. Please, once again, like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.